All right, let's dive into Jessie Inchauspé's Glucose Revolution. This book is fascinating, all about how managing your blood sugar can completely transform your health and energy.
And what's really cool about it, I think, is that it's not about like demonizing carbs or promoting those restrictive diets.
Right.
It's more about giving you knowledge. It's about how different foods actually impact your glucose levels so you can make, good choices that work for you.
Okay, so let's break it down. Like, what exactly is glucose? Why is keeping it stable so important?
Well, glucose is basically sugar, right?
Okay.
It's like your body's main source of energy. So when you eat, your carbohydrates break down into glucose, which enters your bloodstream and fuels everything. The problem isn't really the glucose itself.
Okay.
It's those spikes and crashes when you eat certain foods and you get those dramatic swings.
Oh, yeah, we've all had that rush and then the crash, right? Like after a big bowl of pasta.
Exactly. And it's not just about feeling tired or, wanting some chocolate. Those super high glucose levels over and over can actually trigger a bunch of negative effects,
Uh-huh.
like, more fat storage,
Mm-hmm.
chronic inflammation, even a higher risk of things like type 2 diabetes and heart disease.
Okay, wait. So even like healthy meals can cause these glucose spikes. I thought it was more about just like avoiding like the candy and the really sugary stuff.
That's where it gets really interesting. Shaspe talks about how even meals we think of as healthy, like a big bowl of oatmeal
Right.
or even a fruit smoothie, those can send your glucose levels way up.
Wow.
And it's because those foods, even though they're nutritious, can have lots of carbs that are digested really quickly, leading to those spikes we want to avoid.
So it's not just what we eat, but like HLW, those foods like hit our system, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like your glucose response to the food.
Oh, okay.
That's where Inchauspé's strategies come in.
Okay, this is where it gets juicy. Tell me about the strategies.
So one of the simplest but most powerful things she talks about is eating your food in a certain order.
What?
It's about being strategic, sequencing your meals to minimize those spikes.
Okay, this is interesting. Tell me about the order.
It's actually super simple. You start with your veggies. Fiber-rich veggies first, like greens or broccoli, salad.
So load up on veggies first.
Yeah, because fiber slows down digestion,
Oh,
prevents that rapid blood sugar surge.
got it. So veggies first. What's next?
Then you go for protein and fats. Think grilled chicken or fish, tofu, avocado, nuts.
Okay.
Those also have a slower impact on glucose compared to straight carbs.
Oh, okay. So we're creating like a buffer with the veggies, protein, and fat before the carbs.
Exactly. And it can really change how your body responds, especially to those meals higher in carbs.
I'm already rethinking like my sandwich at lunch. I usually have like the sandwich and then some fruit after.
Yeah. Even small tweaks can make a difference, like having a salad before the sandwich or some nuts with your fruit helps slow down the sugar.
Simple but effective. Love that. Now, what about this vinegar trick I keep hearing about? Is that one of her strategies?
Yes. This one is fascinating.
Okay.
So you have a little bit of vinegar, like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, diluted in water
Hmm.
before a carb-heavy meal. And it could help reduce how much glucose is absorbed.
Wait, vinegar? Does that actually work?
Well, we need more research, but some studies show it might help reduce that spike after a meal.
Mm.
They think it messes with the enzymes that break down starches.
Oh, okay.
It slows down how fast carbs turn into glucose.
Wow, that's incredible. Such a simple
Oh,
thing.
you're right.
What an impact. And easy to do.
Exactly. Just shows how small changes, understanding how our bodies work, can lead to big results.
Now, what about exercise? Obviously, it's important for health, but does it affect managing glucose too?
It totally does.
Okay.
Inchauspé talks about how even light activity after you eat, like a 10-minute walk, can be super beneficial.
Hmm.
When you move your muscles, they use glucose for energy, helps clear it from your blood, prevents those post-meal spikes.
So it's like turning everyday activities into a metabolic boost.
Precisely. And if you can do more intense exercise, like a good walk, a bike ride, anything like that, even better for your overall health and glucose management.
I see how it all works together. Like the order of eating, the vinegar, staying active, it's like a whole system for keeping those levels stable.
It is. And it's all about empowering yourself with knowledge, making choices that support your metabolic health. It's not about like deprivation. It's about working with your body, not against it.
This is all so fascinating. I'm already thinking differently about so many things. But before we move on, I want to talk about glucose and weight. A lot of people are curious about that.
Yeah, that's key.
Yeah.
It all comes down to insulin.
Okay, let's unpack that. What is insulin and how does it relate to all this?
So insulin's a hormone made in your pancreas, and it's essential for regulating your blood sugar.
Okay.
So whenever your blood sugar goes up, like after you eat, your pancreas releases insulin.
So it manages the spikes.
Exactly. Insulin acts like a key, unlocking your cells so glucose can get in
Okay.
to be used for energy or stored. The issue is when you have those spikes too often.
Mm.
Like you're always eating high-carb foods or eating in a way that sends your blood sugar on a roller coaster.
So if our blood sugar is constantly spiking, our bodies are pumping out insulin all the time,
Yes.
and then what happens?
Over time, your cells can actually become resistant to the insulin.
Ooh.
It's like they're overloaded. They're not responding to the signals as well.
Mhm.
That's called insulin resistance.
So insulin resistance means my cells aren't listening to the insulin as well. So what does that mean?
When that happens, glucose can't get into your cells as easily, so it builds up in your bloodstream,
Mm.
making those high blood sugar levels even worse. And to make things worse, it becomes much harder for your body to burn fat for energy,
Wait, what?
because insulin is also involved in storing fat.
So it's like insulin resistance is a double whammy. It's keeping the blood sugar high, A&D, making it harder to burn fat.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
That's why managing glucose is so important for weight. It's not just about calories in, calories out.
Right.
It's about how your body processes those calories, how well it uses glucose and burns fat.
Oh, it's like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
The high glucose leads to insulin resistance, which makes it harder to lose weight and increases the risk of other problems.
It is, and it shows why we need to think about our health holistically.
Right.
Glucose Revolution shows us that managing blood sugar with these simple strategies can impact our whole well-being, from our weight to our energy to our long-term health.
Wow. It's about creating a good internal environment
Exactly.
where our bodies can thrive.
And it all starts with understanding glucose, making choices that keep those levels stable.
Back again, deep diving into Glucose Revolution. You know, I'm feeling pretty inspired by all this. It's so interesting.
It really is amazing how just understanding the science behind glucose can help us, take control of our health.
Absolutely. Speaking of the science, I'm curious about this link between, like, glucose spikes and inflammation. Inchauspé talks about that, right?
Yes, she does.
That's not something I'd ever, connected before.
It's such a crucial connection, I think. People don't always think about that.
Right,
We think of inflammation like when you get an injury.
right, right.
But actually, chronic low-grade inflammation is a huge risk factor for so many serious health problems. Heart disease, cancer, even Alzheimer's.
So even if I don't, feel inflamed, those hidden glucose spikes could be causing problems.
Exactly. It's like, imagine your cells have these little doorways.
Okay.
Insulin receptors, right,
Right,
that let the glucose in to be used.
right.
But when they're bombarded with high glucose all the time, it creates this stress, basically a metabolic stress, that triggers inflammation.
It's like my cells are saying, too much sugar, help.
Haha, that's a great way to put it.
Hi.
And over time, all that inflammation can damage your tissues, your organs, and that sets the stage for health issues down the road.
Oh, wow. It makes you think twice about, snacking or sugary drinks if they're contributing to that.
It really does. But it's also empowering because
Yeah.
we can manage those glucose levels.
Right, exactly. So what about the mental and emotional side of this? We talked about those energy crashes, but does Inchauspé talk about the connection between glucose and, our mood?
Oh, absolutely. She has a whole chapter on it.
Okay.
Fascinating stuff. You remember those hangry feelings?
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's not just an empty stomach. It's connected to how unstable glucose actually messes with your brain chemistry.
Wait, so those mood swings are a real thing, not just me being dramatic.
A real thing. Those fluctuating glucose levels can really mess with our neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, the things that control our mood, our focus.
It's like our brains are on a roller coaster, too.
Exactly. No wonder you feel irritable, unfocused when your blood sugar crashes.
Makes sense. So when our glucose is stable, our brains are more balanced, too.
Exactly. You're creating a better internal environment for your brain. That means more consistent energy, you can focus better, and your mood is more stable.
Wow, it really is all connected, our physical and mental well-being.
It is. And the science is there. Studies show that stabilizing glucose can improve how your brain works, reduce anxiety, even help you sleep better.
It's not just about feeling good and now it's about our long-term health.
Exactly. That's what's so great about Glucose Revolution. It highlights that managing glucose is an investment in our whole well-being. Mind, AD, body.
Okay, so for people who are ready to make some changes, what kind of meal planning advice does she give? I'm all about practical tips.
Well, she goes back to that key principle we talked about, prioritizing fiber, protein, and healthy fats.
Right, right.
Think of them like your glucose stabilizers.
Okay.
They work together to slow things down, prevent the big spikes, keep you full.
So how do we work those into our meals? Give me some examples.
Okay, let's say breakfast. Instead of that sugary cereal, what if you had a veggie omelet with some avocado and a few berries?
That sounds so much better than my usual cereal, and it keeps you full longer, probably.
Exactly. So you've got your veggies for fiber, eggs for protein, the avocado for healthy fats, and those berries have a little natural sugar, but it won't spike your glucose.
Perfect combination. What about lunch? I love salads, but I usually just do lettuce, tomatoes, and dressing. Is that enough?
Salads are awesome, but make sure you're piling on the non-starchy veggies first.
Hmm.
Leafy greens, broccoli, peppers, cucumbers, all those good things.
Okay.
And then add some protein, grilled chicken or fish, tofu, whatever you like. Add a healthy fat, like olive oil or nuts and seeds. And if you're having carbs, choose whole grains like quinoa.
So it's about creating a balanced plate that stabilizes glucose.
Exactly. And the same goes for dinner. You could start with a big salad and then have salmon with some roasted Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes, for example.
So every meal should have the mix of fiber, protein, and healthy fats.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to get creative. There are so many delicious combinations.
Okay, now what about those sugar cravings? We all get them. Does she have advice for dealing with those?
She does. And it's surprisingly simple. One thing is to drink a big glass of water before you grab that cookie.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes we mistake thirst for hunger.
That's true.
So being hydrated can help.
I'll have to try that.
Another thing is to eat more fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt.
Huh?
They have good bacteria that are good for your gut.
Okay.
And a healthy gut helps regulate blood sugar.
So it's like we're not just feeding ourselves, we're feeding our gut bacteria.
Exactly. And those little microbes can have a huge impact on our health.
Wow, that's so cool.
It is. And then, of course, there's mindful eating.
Oh, right. She talks about that.
She really encourages people to slow down, savor your food,
Hmm.
pay attention to your body's cues.
Yeah.
That can help you avoid overeating and prevent those big spikes that happen when you eat too much too fast.
Yeah, sometimes I just scarf my food down, especially when I'm busy.
We all do it. But taking those few moments to pause, appreciate your food, it can make a big difference. You'll know when you're actually full.
And we can't forget about movement. We talked about this, but even light activity after meals is good.
Absolutely. Even a short walk after each meal, just 10 minutes, can really help your muscles use that glucose, clears it from your blood, keeps your energy stable.
So it's like turning everyday activities into mini workouts.
Precisely. And of course, if you can move more throughout the day, even better.
Yeah, it's about finding those small changes that fit into our lives.
Exactly. That's what's so great about Glucose Revolution. It's not about being restrictive. It's about giving you the knowledge to make choices that work for you.
I love that. It's about understanding our bodies and working with them.
Exactly.
All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Glucose Revolution. I'm feeling pretty energized about all this. It's like, I don't know, a whole new way of thinking about food.
It really is amazing. We have so much control over our health, more than we realize sometimes.
Totally. And it's not about being perfect. It's about making those good choices, the informed choices.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about glucose monitoring. We touched on this before.
Yeah.
What about those continuous glucose monitors, those CGMs?
Yeah, those can be really useful, especially if you want to really personalize your approach. Get specific about managing your blood sugar.
So remind me, how do those things work? Who are they good for?
Okay, so CGMs are those little devices you wear, usually on your arm or your belly.
Right, right.
And they constantly track your glucose all day and night.
Wow.
So you see exactly how your body's responding to different foods, different activities.
So it's like having a little detective tracking your blood sugar 24/7.
Exactly. And the data is amazing. You can see how much your glucose spikes after you eat certain things, how exercise affects it, even things like stress and sleep.
It seems like that would be really helpful for people with diabetes who have to be so careful.
Definitely, it can be life-changing for people with diabetes. It helps them adjust their medication, their diet, their exercise, and avoid those dangerous swings in blood sugar.
But it's not just for people with diabetes, right?
Right. More and more people are using them just to be proactive about their health, even if they don't have any specific condition.
So, if I'm following the Glucose Revolution stuff, I could use a CGM to see how those changes are working.
Exactly. You might be surprised what you learn. You might think a certain food is fine, and then see that it actually spikes your glucose a lot.
It's like getting personalized feedback.
Exactly. And then you can make those little adjustments that make a big difference.
Takes the guesswork out of it.
Totally. And while CGMs aren't for everyone, they're a really cool tool if you're serious about your metabolic health.
So I know some people might be thinking, okay, if I follow these principles, does that mean giving up all the good stuff? Like, is it a life of salads and, boring food?
That's a big myth. This is not about deprivation.
Okay, good.
Inchauspé is all about finding a sustainable approach, enjoying food.
Yeah.
It's about making smart choices, not feeling restricted.
So I can still have my treats sometimes.
Absolutely. And the book actually gives you tips for minimizing the glucose spikes, even when you do indulge, like pairing carbs with protein and fiber to slow down absorption, or having dessert after a meal with lots of veggies and protein instead of on an empty stomach.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about balance, not feeling like you're always saying no.
Exactly. And those small changes we talked about, those are key. It doesn't have to be this big overnight overhaul of everything.
Right.
Start with a few things like the order of your food, adding vinegar to your meal.
Baby steps. It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And what's interesting? As you start making these changes, you'll probably find you crave those sugary treats less and less.
Really?
Yeah, your taste buds adjust.
Yeah.
Your body starts wanting that stable energy it gets from whole, nutritious foods.
Because you're giving your body what it actually needs, not just the quick sugar fix.
Exactly. And as you feel the benefits, the energy, the focus, the better mood, you'll want to keep going.
It's a positive cycle.
It is. Taking care of your metabolic health makes you feel good, so you want to keep taking care of yourself.
I love that.
It's a lifestyle, not a quick fix.
This has been so interesting. Honestly, I feel like I have this whole new understanding of how food and my body work together.
That's great to hear. I hope our listeners feel the same way, inspired to take control of their own health.
There's this one quote from Glucose Revolution that really stuck with me.
Oh, what is it?
She says, "Small changes consistently applied can lead to extraordinary results. Don't underestimate the power of those tiny tweaks to transform your health and well-being."
That's perfect. It's not about these huge changes. It's about consistency.
Right. And it's a message of hope. It's not about restriction. It's about understanding our bodies, working with them.
It's about taking charge, realizing we have more power than we think to really shape our health.
Absolutely. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Glucose Revolution.
It's been my pleasure.
I hope everyone listening has found it as helpful as I have.
Me too. And remember, even small changes can lead to a healthier, happier you.
That's a great reminder. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of knowledge.
Until then, stay curious.
Thanks for tuning into Chapter 2, where we break down the best books to fuel your growth and learning. If this book caught your interest, check out the links in the description to get the audiobook at no cost. Don't miss out and support our channel while you dive deeper into these life-changing reads. See you in the next episode.